And Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
Cool. Mika Whaiteri.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Tēnā tātou ngā mimo te whare nei. Mr. Speaker, it gives me a privilege and honour to stand and rise in support of the second reading of ngā Punawai o te Tokotoru Claim Settlement Bill. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the bill, as clearly outlined, is an omnibus bill that seeks to give effect to the deeds of settlement signed by the Crown and the three Te Arawa iwi. I take this opportunity to mihi to Ngāti Rangi Te Aorere, Ngāti Rangi Wewehe and Tapu Ika as parties to this bill. Mr. Speaker, the purpose is a final settlement of their historic Treaty of Waitangi claims. The bill sets out the cultural and commercial redress for each iwi and records the acknowledgements and apologies offered by the Crown to all three iwi. In addition, Mr. Speaker, there is a statutory pardon for Ngāti Rangi Wewehe tūpuna Kiriopa Te Rau, and I'd like to come back and talk a bit more about this rangatira. Ngāti Rangi Wewehe, Ngāti Te Aorere and Tapu Ika have a combined population of approximately 2,500 members, and the various areas of interest of these three iwi cover Te Puke and the Rotorua iwi area, including Te Ngai. Mr. Speaker, every claim settlement bill have their unique aspects about them, and I mentioned in my introductions the pardoning in this bill of Kiriopa Te Rau. And I want to take a moment, Mr. Speaker, because in my own research and getting up, I wanted to explore who this man, Kiriopa Te Rau, was. And so I undertook a bit of research, and I would like to take this opportunity to put on record what I uncovered. And can I preface before talking about this particular tipuna in acknowledging that each iwi and each hapu will have their own version of tipuna. So I'm going to put on record this particular tipuna as accorded by the biography written by Stephen Oliver of the Dictionary of New Zealand Biography, Volume 1 in 1919. Kiriopa Te Rau was one of the 5 original disciplines of Te Ua Haumini, the founder of the Pai Mārie faith. Mr. Speaker, he was a member of Ngāti Rangi Wewehe of Te Arawa. The date and place of his birth are not known, nor the names of his parents. Sometime in the 1840s, he was baptised by the Catholic missionary Father, and I apologise if I get this pronunciation wrong, Ulrich Regner, and took the name Kiriopa. He is believed to have served as a policeman in Auckland in the 1850s. In the early 1860s, he fought in the King's forces in Waikato. His wife and 2 daughters are thought to have been killed in Rangiao Whia, near Te Awamutu, when it was attacked by government forces on 21 February 1864. And the following day, he was at Haerini, a defensive position just west of Rangiao Whia, where he saw his sister killed. Mr. Speaker, after the defeat of the King Movement forces in mid-1864, Kiriopa joined the new religion of Te Ua Haumini. In December 1864, Te Ua instructed Kiriopa and Pātara Raukatori to go as emissaries to the tribes of the East Coast. They were told to preach the Pai Mārie faith in the districts they passed through, to go in peace and not to interfere with Pākehā. Kiriopa, however, demanded that a European be given up to him at Otipa, a settlement on the Roa Rangitaiki River, and that a Catholic priest be handed over at Whakatane. These requests were refused, but at Portiki, the missionary C.S. Faulkner was seized and ritually killed on the 2nd of March 1865. Faulkner was hung from a willow tree near his church by members of his own congregation. Kiriopa was widely believed to have instigated the killing of Vokna. Although he had agreed to it, in fact, he did not take part in the actual hanging and cannot be held responsible. The arrival of the Pai Mārire party at Opotiki precipitated the tragedy, but there were complex reasons for Vokna's death. Principal among them, these, was Te Whakatohia's anger at the missionary for his actions in spying for the government. In returning to Opotiki at the time, Vokna had disregarded the explicit warnings of Te Whakatohia. Kiriopa himself may have sought to avenge the deaths of members of his family at Haideni and at Rangiaowhia, a plan of which Vokna had sent to Governor George Grey. After the killing of Vokna, Kiriopa, with his party of Pai Mārire followers, went on to Gisborne and to the Uruwera, where he preached the Pai Mārire faith among Tūhoi. In May 1865, he attempted to travel to Waikato to preach to the Kingite tribes, but was prevented from reaching the Kaingaroa Plains by a force of Ngāti Manawa and Ngāti Rangitihi. After a long siege, Ngāti Manawa and Ngāti Rangitihi abandoned their defences at Tāpiri and Okupu in the western Uruwera. But Kiriopa was forced to turn back when a relief party of Te Arawa, led by W.J. Meyer, arrived. He then returned to Opotiki, but was driven from there by government troops and fled into the Uruwera. Mr. Speaker, Kiriopa had much mana in the eyes of Tūhoi as the bearer of the Pai Mārire faith to that tribe, and thus obtained their protection. The dense bush of Uruwera Mountains also offered him protection from his pursuers, as it later would be for Te Kote. Martial law had been declared in Opotiki and Whakatane districts after the killing of Vokna, and a reward was offered for the capture of those responsible. Kiriopa concealed himself at Te Rawa, on a densely wooded hillside to Meromero, at Ohanga Te Rangi, a Ngāti Rongo settlement north of Ruatahuna. Te Roa had never been occupied and commanded an excellent view of anyone approaching. There, Kiriopa was able to elude his pursuers for the next 5 years. From mid-1868, the Ringatu faith of Te Kote gained popularity among Tūhoi, and the influence of Pai Mārire correspondingly faded. The reverence in which Tūhoi held Kiriopa also diminished, but Tūhoi did not disclose his whereabouts. Over the next 3 years, however, the people of the Uruwera were weakened and their land devastated by the government's relentless pursuit of Te Kote and the remaining Ho-Ho leaders. Government troops, including Ngāti Porou contingent led by Ropeha Wahawa, embarked on several campaigns between May 1869 and early 1872, in which Tūhoi pā were plundered, crops destroyed and people killed. Mr. Speaker, on the 22nd of December in 1871, Kiriopa stood trial at the Supreme Court at Napier for the murder of Vokna. There was no direct proof of his responsibility for the killing, but a European witness, Samuel Levy, testified that he had seen Kiriopa among those who escorted Vokna to the willow tree. On the basis of his evidence, Kiriopa was convicted of murder and sentenced to death. William Colenso appealed unsuccessfully for clemency on the ground that the crime had already been punished by execution and land confiscation. Kiriopa was hung on 5th of January 1872 in Napier. Mr. Speaker, this is one of the tragic stories of treaty settlements and breaches in this country, and I wanted particularly to acknowledge in this settlement the pardon of Kiriopa Te Rau, and I join on this side of the House, commend the work of our Māori Select Committee for the submissions that were presented, and join with all in supporting this bill to the House. Kia ora tātou.
I call Joanne Hayes.
Tēnā koe. I take this brief call to support the second reading of